So, recently, I read Solo Leveling. As, the anime aired, it got me interested. I was very impressed with the first couple of episodes. So, I decided to give it a read. And as of a couple days ago now, as of recording this, not as of it going up, I finished reading it. I haven't read the side stories yet, just as a quick little caveat. So we're not going to talk about those. We're just going to talk about the main plot up until where it ends, with episode 179, I think. Chapter 179, I think, is the last one. I might be getting the number wrong in my head, but I think it was there. And yeah, I'll give you my thoughts on the webtoon, the webcomic. Yeah, let's just get straight into it. If you want the short answer, whether I think it's good, I think it's alright. Yes, just alright. I don't think it's anything special. I don't think it's crazy good, and I don't think it's bad either. I don't think it's complete trash, just by virtue of being a power fantasy, but I also don't think it's particularly good because it is a power fantasy. They're not particularly things that I think can be incredible. They can be definitely enjoyable and cathartic to read, which it was, but there are definitely flaws I have with the story, which I will point out as we go along, and also some of the nuances of the system of how main character gets stronger as well, because I feel like there are a few inconsistencies that I thought about on my walk to get lunch and a coffee this morning. But yes, so let's just start with our main character, who's basically the only real relevant character. I mean, yes, his family, mainly his sister, are kind of relevant, but that's pushing it. And so is the Vice Guild Master, he's relatively relevant as well, but again, that's actually probably one of my biggest complaints with Solo Leveling. Yes, it's, a power fantasy focused on this main character. It's called Solo Leveling, right? Obviously, the main character is going to be the primary focus, but I wish there was a bit more for the side characters. I feel like a lot of them got sidelined very, very hard, really quickly. Especially someone like Juhi and Song, the guy that goes into the double dungeon really early on with Sung, the old guy that loses his arm, who's actually a mage, even though he likes to use a sword. Because that's what he trained his whole life doing. I feel like they get sidelined really hard, especially after they're reintroduced with the B-rank hunter that's killing the prisoners, and then them, or trying to kill them, which is where we see that Sung is really OP, in fact. I feel like a lot of the side characters do get heavily sidelined without really getting to do too much of interest. There are a few exceptions, obviously. Thomas Andre in Season 2. He gets to do stuff. He's probably the most relevant one. The older brother of the guy Sung kills, I can't remember their names. But, the Korean S-rank hunter that moved to America to join the Scavenger Guild under Thomas Andre. He's relevant. I actually really do like that came to something, that something came about from his beef with Sung for killing his younger brother. Also, I probably should have said this at the beginning, but if you're an anime only, major spoilers, I'm talking about the webtoon here, not the anime. It would be a bit weird to talk about the anime when it's only halfway through. Anyway, back on track. On topic, I should say. Cha Haing also gets a little bit of attention, but not as much as I think she should have had. I believe that in the novel, because I believe Solo Leveling is based off a novel, a lot of the cast get more fleshed out, which is to be expected. It's a novel as opposed to a webcomic, so there will be differences there. And if you think the webcomic's worth reading, let me know, and I might go check it out and do a follow-up to this at some point down the line, although it would be very, very much down the line. Yeah, anyway. But Sung, our main character, starts off as a little bitch boy. A little bitch boy, the weakest hunter in the world, okay? A little, absolute, just completely worthless guy. A magic rating of 10 when, like, the low end of E ranks is normally, like, 70, as we're told very, very early on. And then, he dies in the double dungeon, quote-unquote dies, and becomes a player in the Cartenion Temple. And this is where things change. I'm drinking my coffee while I do this, so if I stop every now and then, that's because I'm taking a drink. But, and this is where things begin to change. He gets his missions, he gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, exponentially getting his job, and, the plot unfolds from there. Mainly, a lot of the plot-heavy stuff is in Season 2. And honestly, I think Season 2 is a bit worse than Season 1 in terms of its storytelling, if you ask me. But I'll get onto that. Yeah. And then, obviously, as he gets stronger, he becomes, badass. He becomes a lot colder, a lot more stoic. Yeah. It's alright, but he does kind of lose his personality as time goes on, and his only real defining traits are he wants to become stronger and protect his family. Those are the only two things that give him any sort of semblance of self, as opposed to just generic main character man, you know? Same with his design as well. He goes from having like this lots of the hair to just main character fuckboy cut. That's how the best way I can describe it in my own head. He gets the fuckboy trim, if you get what I'm saying. Actually, this is something I did want to really talk about. The system in relation to Sung. Because it's said that, as his stats go up, it is actually affecting him physically. As we see with, with his strength, it gets to 50, he's all of a sudden really, really swole, even though he's not really been working out that much. He's just been doing some push-ups and sit-ups and going for a jog. And yet he's absolutely shredded because he's been pumping his stats into strength. Well, this never actually ends up coming up again. And he literally says he has to be careful with, leveling strength because he doesn't want to end up absurdly buff, like comically buff. And he's already shredded as fuck when his strength is only in the 50s, and yet much later on when his strength is in the, like above 300, he's the same build. Like he doesn't actually get any more muscular or bigger, so that just never becomes relevant at all, really. It just gets dropped immediately, which I find a bit unfortunate. It could have been interesting to see him gradually change instead of just becoming shredded and then never changing again from that point. If anything, sometimes it seems like he gets like physically smaller, like he becomes more compact as opposed to being jacked, but that is probably just the art style. Speaking of the art style, again, something that I think is that Season 2 is just lower quality in terms of the production behind it. It feels like the art style, in my opinion, I'm not an artist, bear in mind, but this is just my opinion, I feel like the art looked better in Season 1 as opposed to Season 2. I don't know, it's just, maybe I'm just high as fuck, maybe I'm just tweaking, right? But it felt like Season 2's art style was less unique, less detailed, as compared to Season 1. Now, there are some really cool-looking designs that are drawn really well, but specifically take the main character, Sung. Basically all of his outfits are just solid black most of the time. And I get it, he's the Monarch of Shadows, of course he's going to wear black, but it's a bit uninteresting to look at, It's just, I feel like and some of the fight choreography as well, I feel, goes downhill in Season 2. Now, saying that, obviously, there are exceptions, specifically the fight against the, Monarch of Destruction, the King of Dragons, right at the end. And they both go giant. That's actually a pretty cool fight. That whole fight with him is really, really good. But a lot of the other fights before then just are a bit lacking from the choreography department, and like the visual aspect. They're cool fights, but I feel like they were lacking, especially compared to some of the earlier ones. Mainly the fight against Igris. I think that fight is really well done. It's not a very long fight, but I think that is really well done. The whole, again, it's basically all of Season 1, I think, is really good quality in terms of, the action. The story is relatively light. It's the main character getting stronger and, finding out little bits here and there about the world, especially after he, gets his job and his class and becomes a Monarch of Shadows. In name only. Arise. But that's when we start to get a little bit, when he goes into the Demon Tower. We start getting drip-fed. Little bits here and there, but again, even then, that's not a whole lot. And a lot of what we learn there, like all the different demon clans, they show up in a flashback, and are name dropped in said flashback, but they're never relevant again. Again, a problem I think the series has is with side characters and is that they do just vanish off the face of the earth. But hey, that's just me. I like a story that's more character involved, and this isn't that type of story, which is, fair enough. I feel like I had something else to say about that. I'm drawing a blank. Oh well. Fuck, yeah, I'm drawing a blank. The Jeju? I think it's Jeju. Is it Juju? I think it's Jeju Island. The Ant Island stuff. I can't lie. That does feel very, very Chimera Ant inspired. If you've seen Hunter x Hunter or know of Hunter x Hunter, that feels very, very Chimera Ant. Beru feels very much like Meruem. Slightly different, of course, but he feels very Meruem. Also, the line of Jinwoo having to be careful of his power because it's not actually his never really comes up because the Monarch of Shadows just gives him the power later on after he re-enters the Cartenion Temple and faces the administrator of the system. After that holderback, he kind of just gets the full power of the Monarch of Shadows. Almost no questions asked, which is a shame. I was hoping maybe there'd be a bit of conflict between the two of them, but no. The Monarch of Shadows likes him, so he just gets the power. Because, you know, as he was the weakest, he was constantly trotting the line between life and death for so long that he was basically death itself or something. I can't remember the exact words. It was akin to that. Which, I mean, cool. Neat. That ties back into when he was weak. That's, you know, that's good. That's interesting. I like that. It's just, I kind of wish there was a bit more to it. Especially because it's, when Jinwoo is in the, class acquisition quest, we see the Monarch of Shadows, that we later on find out would have been the Monarch of Shadows, take on his, I was going to say younger self, but it's not his younger self, it's his weaker self when he's, you know, a scrawny little bitch, saying, you know, you're weak, you are nothing, in the form of his, old self, which would now be the Monarch of Shadows. It seemed like the Monarch of Shadows was somewhat condescending and looking down on him at that point, but then by the time, you know, they actually meet again, Jinwoo is obviously very, very, very strong. In fact, actually, let's talk about the ending. Because I've heard, from people I know mainly, that the ending is a bit contentious. And I would assume what they're on about is him using the cup of, restoration, to rewind time. And then take care of all of the monarchs in the dimensional gap before all of the events of the story actually take place. I don't see a problem with that. I think that's very much in line with his character. That feels like something he would do. It makes sense that he wouldn't want to let all the people he's lost stay dead. You know? All those lives that have been lost. He would want to try and do something about that. And he has the opportunity to. So, why wouldn't he take it? That feels very much in line with his character. Because we do see that, I know that I said earlier on, his main defining personality traits are, he wants to get stronger and protect his family. But that protect his family extends to, you know, people he cares about. Mainly, and eventually basically all of human life, effectively. Especially when he loses people that he is close to and values. Especially to the Dragon Monarch when they slaughter all those people in Canada. But, I think that his decision there makes perfect sense. Right? I think that's perfectly reasonable. And that means, you know, he doesn't lose his dad either. He gets his dad back by doing that. Because his dad no longer goes missing in the gates. So, I think that's perfectly reasonable. The only thing that I feel is a bit strange, that last scene of young Sung and young Cha meeting. I swear down, Sung was older than Cha by a decent little bit. And yet now that they're back in the past, Sung looks... I know that he's changing his physical appearance, but even when he adjusts it to be, quote-unquote, his age at the time, he looks so much younger than Cha does, even though he should be older than she is. But hey, maybe I'm just misremembering something. But yeah, that is what that is. Also, I do like the Cha-Sung relationship. I feel like it, again, this is because of the side character stuff, I feel like it could have been fleshed out a bit more time could be put into it, and I believe that happens in the novel, but, you know, that's that. Would have been cool to see more of that than having to, you know, go out and read it. I know, reading? Who reads? Fuck's sake. I'm not presenting myself very well, am I? But yeah, I would have liked more on that, but again, it's still nice that we got to see it at all. And yeah. Anything else that I have to say on solo leveling? No, I think I've gotten everything that I want to get across in this little ramble. This isn't scripted. Nothing I do is, because I don't want to write scripts because I can't be asked and I'm already busy enough. So I just click record and go. But yeah, those are my thoughts on solo leveling. Let me know what you think. If you disagree with anything that I've said, I'm more than welcome for you to tell me. And if I disagree with your disagreements, I will argue back. And if I agree or you change my mind, I'll let you know. So yeah, drop those in the comments. If you're new, sub, notification bell, like, YouTube stuff, you know. And with that out of the way, I've been Animosity, you've been you, and I hope you take a long time for another video. Ta-ta. Bye now.